Alright, thanks for checking in to Shooting It Straight. Well, you know me, and so you know by now that whenever I run across a YouTube video with a trainer that is teaching concealed carry students a dangerous or otherwise improper technique, I'm going to expose it and counter it because I believe you deserve better. Now, this is yet another such video. And I just ran across this one just a few days ago. And it's a technique I'm going to discuss with you. I must say, however, that I don't recall seeing any other trainer teaching this particular technique. So it must not be so commonly taught, at least not yet, thank goodness. But you need to know about it, and you need to know why to avoid practicing this technique if you ever do see it. Now, I'll show a short demo clip that I just made of this technique a little bit later on in this video. Now, the the trainer here, whom I'll refer to as Trainer X, because you know I don't call out trainers or channels. Anyway, Trainer X talks about the several physiological changes that take place when a person is suddenly forced into an extreme stress situation, such as in a deadly force situation. Now, on this part, he is correct, and I have cited this before in a couple of my videos, but it's important and it makes all the difference in the world, so I'll cite it again for those who may have missed it. Physiological changes take place under extreme stress, especially if it's sudden. Okay? Now, which changes and to what degree a person will experience them will vary from person to person. Most of these physiological changes will subside once the immediate threat is over, while other conditions of this stress may continue to linger for a little bit longer. But in the moment of extreme stress, some people may experience things such as auditory suppression, where you almost can't hear anything, or auditory exclusion, which you can't hear anything at all. Some people may experience numbness in their fingers, fingertips, hands from vasoconstriction, which naturally occurs under these conditions. All of these things do. Some people may experience what Trainer X refers to as time dilation, which is actually listed as tachypsyche, which is Greek for speed of mind. And it affects our perception of time, which is why sometimes things could appear to happen in slow motion. And this is caused by a combination of extremely high levels of dopamine a combination of dopamine and norepinephrine in times of, high stress like that. Another physiological change that takes place under extreme stress involves our eyes and our vision. Tunnel vision causes our focus to remain on the threat for as long as the threat itself exists. Now, this does come at the cost of poor peripheral vision. Once the threat is over, you may still have lingering tunnel vision to a degree, in which you will still remain somewhat focused on the freshly incapacitated threat. However, at that point, you can force yourself to visually check your immediate surroundings for other possible threats. This is when scan comes in on it. All right. When you're scanning and you're physically turning your head side to side, you can break out of that lingering tunnel vision as long as your initial threat is perceived by your mind to no longer pose a threat. Okay? Likewise, that same physiological change makes it impossible to close an eye in order to take aim, traditional aim. Because our natural survival instincts will force both eyes, not just one, but both eyes, to stay completely open and on our threat. our pupils will instantly dilate to gather as much light and information as possible. Now, all of this is natural, instinctive survival responses, and it prevents us from closing either eye. Now, all of these things I just described are natural survival instincts, and they cannot be trained out of us, nor can they be controlled. However, what we can do is to build muscle memories through practicing, repetition, which will help us to perform our moving mechanics better under stress whenever these physiological changes do occur. Now, take note here. These physiological conditions or changes that I spoke of do not occur on shooting ranges or in competitive matches, which is why I maintain that concealed carriers should not practice techniques taught by those trainers. They teach methods that cannot be performed under the extreme stress of a deadly force incident, such as counting your shots, closing an eye to aim, focusing on something other than the threat itself, trigger pull control, trigger reset awareness, and things of that nature, in addition to a host of impractical tactics and techniques. Now, getting back to Trainer X here, well, he demonstrates a method that was developed, I don't know by who, but developed to avoid tunnel vision. That's his words, avoid tunnel vision, which first of all is just not possible. There's nothing you can do to avoid tunnel vision. Now, he calls this technique the 360-degree look. The 360-degree look. All right, I'm going to roll in just a very brief clip of myself demonstrating this. Now, note that the images will appear reversed because my phone is in front-facing mode here, so everything is, my right hand's going to look like my left hand, and you know what I mean. And I haven't figured out how to fix that yet. All right, so watch this. Okay, let me show you right quick. Trainer X's what he calls 360-degree look. The 360-degree look that he says will avoid tunnel vision. Now we're working with an empty pistol, right? Okay. And an empty mag except for one dummy round in it for reloads. Okay, now according to Trainer X, this is when you want to perform this 360-degree look. You're in an active engagement with your attacker, okay, with your threat. The threat is active. You're engaging, okay, step back. You're engaging with him. But suddenly, you run dry, you run empty. Well, you got to reload, right? Of course you do. Reload. But then, at this point, that's when you go low ready. You look to the left, you look to the right, then you look ahead, then you re-engage in your active gunfight with your active threat. That's his 360-degree look. Let me show you how to do this. What he's showing you is scanning. He's showing you basic scanning. The scan that we're supposed to do before we reholster and walk away, right? That's when you do that. You don't do it until then. And then when you do scan, personally, I prefer to use the third eye concept. Okay? One eye, two eyes, eye number three. This eye goes wherever these two eyes go. Left, left, right, left. See, we're all in it together like that. We're not doing this, which this is fine if you want to do that quickly. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just that I was trained to do this. Okay, that's just how I was trained. So that's just That's just a preference for me. Okay, let's get back to the other video, or the other part of the video. Okay, Trainer X. Trainer X teaches students to use this scanning method, get ready for this, and you saw it, during a reload while still engaged in combat with the bad guy. I'm not kidding you. I had to watch that video twice to make sure I wasn't imagining things. Now, as soon as, in his video, as soon as he took his eyes off of his active threat and began to scan, I knew then for a fact that this guy has never been in a real life deadly shooting situation, because I can assure you, you'll never be able to perform that technique in the real world. This is the kind of trainers out there these days that I'm always trying to warn you about, fellas. Let me point out just a few facts that completely destroys Trainer X's tactics here. To take your eyes off of a direct active threat is a death sentence, and practically impossible to do anyway under most circumstances, because our survival instincts are hardwired to keep our eyes on the threat. It is highly unlikely that we will be able to break free of the tunnel vision while in the heat of a gunfight such as that demonstrated. Alright, you should always keep your eyes on the threat during any reload, as long as that threat is still active. That's just common sense and basic knowledge. Really, you should have already made it to cover by the time you needed that reload anyway, and shouldn't have been standing still there doing that reload. Get the hell out of the way. Get away. Alright. Scanning should only be performed after the bad guy is no longer a threat, and not during the fight itself. What if the threat moves to another location while you're busy peeking over your shoulders? Congratulations, you've just given the bad guy the upper hand through your own negligence. Now, when teaching the third eye concept, I've had some people make the claim, but now you're taking your eyes and the gun off of your bad guy to scan. Okay, and what's the problem with that? If you're scanning, you've already determined that your attacker is incapacitated and is no longer a threat, right? So, why keep your eyes and gun on something that is not a threat? If your attacker is still a threat, well, you should be shooting, not scanning. Boys, it is exactly this kind of training, and so much more like it out there, that will get you killed. It's very obvious to me that this is yet another trainer that is teaching you things that they have never personally experienced. Otherwise, they would know better and they wouldn't be teaching it, right? My goal is to point these things out to you so you don't reduce your chances of surviving a deadly force encounter. By practicing those flawed techniques that are theory-based. Increase your chances of survival by practicing only fact-based techniques that have already been proven to work in actual deadly force cases. I can only hope that other defensive arms trainers across the country will someday soon understand this and start providing realistic training that will actually benefit concealed carriers, instead of teaching nothing but the tactical competitive techniques that are useless in real-life deadly force incidents. Alright boys, look, thanks for watching this video. I hope I was able to point out yet another example of poor tactics for concealed carriers to avoid. This is all in my pursuit to point out the training and techniques you need to avoid in order to be better prepared for an armed encounter. I hope this video today accomplished that goal. So, I'm Antonius, and I'll see you next time here on Shooting It Straight. Ciao.